Hey guys, I'm Pablo, and I am a UX designer. 8 months ago, I started my coding journey and instantly fell in love. Now, I want to help anyone wanting to break into programming overcome any obstacle by sharing all of my experiences in the field. This is Devotion, a podcast dedicated to motivate you on your coding journey. We will be talking ways to keep you inspired, motivated, and encouraged, all while talking industry news, products, UX, and everything in between. Remember, it all starts with devotion. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Devotion Podcast. As always, I am your host, Pablo Villarreal, and today we're going to be talking about something super important, and I think that in a lot of cases is overlooked. And this is for any aspiring developers or beginner developers or just developers that just are not quite sure where they're at. And that is a roadmap, right? Figuring out what language is best to learn, or what languages to learn, or what frameworks to learn, or what basics to learn, and how much fundamental do you need, or hey, what's the next thing I have to learn, right? This is something that I've struggled with for a very long time. I would say probably my entire 8 months. Now, out of 8 months, I would say 6 months I struggled. I recently gained some perspective and snapped out of what people call tutorial hell. And I see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm making this podcast to kind of help anyone that may be in my shoes or that's heading straight to that pothole I've hit, and maybe kind of help you navigate around that situation. So for me specifically, it was web development. So my background is in UX, and I'm a lead UX right now. And I wanted to take on a deeper level of UX for me. And I know this is controversial, right? There's a line between UX designers that say, hey, UX designers should not code, and it's actually counterproductive, or it puts them in a box if they know how to code. And I don't see how that's the issue. Because if anything, it has made me become a better designer, because I can prioritize design. Like, what is actual user experience type of material, things that a user will find extremely helpful and intuitive to use. Sometimes, we get carried away with design, and we're like, hey, well, we need this little box right here because it ties in, and we make it this color, it'll make it pop out and stand out, and this kind of completes the palette, and which is kind of bleeding a lot into UI, but also if like me, as starting to get into development, know the effort it takes to create that in code, and sometimes those efforts, right, that don't translate into good conversion or UX are just not worth it. But a designer that does not know the fundamental building blocks of that little square that to you is just a square, drag and click in on XD or Figma or whatever, to a developer is a little more complicated. And sometimes it helps you prioritize whether or not that design is actually worth it, or that shape, or whatever it may be. So it has given me a lot of perspective in the field and has made my designs ultimately a lot better. But I got a little carried away. So something I wanted to talk about was that roadmap for me. So my first mistake was wanting to learn everything. And I don't know if anyone else kind of has fallen prey to this, but I know I did, and I did hard. I remember I decided I wanted to do web. I'm so into web design, and because I was working in web UX and stuff like that. And I remember going like, man, I want to learn how to build these things too. So sparked my interest, and what I picked up, like every other designer does, or someone wanting to jump into that type of development, is HTML and CSS. Then I started learning JavaScript, right? And I was like, oh man, like, okay, so I hit the fundamentals right away. Okay, I know what this is. I know what that is. And at that point, I had a little bit of experience with Python. So some of the concepts weren't hard to grasp. It was just more of like the syntax and stuff like that, and so just some weird functionalities with JavaScript in general. So I went ahead and thought started feeling myself a little bit, because I knew how to work loops, and I knew how to I knew all the data types and blah 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 blah. And I jumped straight to React. like without actually having fully learned JavaScript. And it was probably one of the worst mistakes and one of the biggest setbacks I've had, because I spent months, like 3 months in React, and I was kind of just like, following tutorials of how to build this and how to build that. So everything I was really learning how to do was just very situational. It was just like for that type of experience that I was building, or that type of project. It only worked. And some of the logic was like, jumping from YouTube video to YouTube video was very, it was not good. That's a good way to put it. It was not good, because like you would see one person do it this way, and then another person completely just say, no, this is the right way to do it because X reason. And there was another person that just kind of, messed the theory of the other person. And before I knew it, I was more confused than ever, and kind of just did not want to, like, I kind of fell off web development, because I'm like, man, I must not be smart enough. And this is something that everyone goes through. Like, I must not be smart enough. I must be the only person in the world that does not understand this. And, but little did I know, is because I didn't have a roadmap. I didn't have something to follow that helped me, like, say, hey man, first you learn HTML, and then you learn CSS, and then you learn JavaScript. Those are the basics of web development. And then you can jump into things like Bootstrap, right? React, Vue, Angular, etc., etc., etc. But you have to have a good foundation, which is something I did not have. I kept jumping from topic to topic, from subject to subject, from language to language. And before I knew it, I was worse off than when I started. I skipped a lot of HTML stuff that I just thought, this is super simple. This is for, this is idiot proof. And so is the CSS. I wasn't aware of the power of CSS at the time, because I didn't really dive into it. And also for JavaScript, I didn't really fully dive into that, because I jumped straight to React. So something I actually want to discuss is what helped me gain some guidance here was 3 people. They're not sponsors or anything. It's just, these are some free and paid resources that kind of gave me understanding as to where I have to head to, or what's the next thing to learn. And there's some tricks I want to share with you guys too. So the first teacher is, let's see, what's his name? I forgot what his name is. Oh, Andre. I'm going to butcher his last name, but it's Andre, Neagoie, Niagoi, something like that. His first like full stack developer boot camp course on Udemy was one of the first things I actually kind of got into. And the first course I actually paid for, that I was, okay, I need some structure, I need something to help me guide, I need some guidance. I jumped on his course, and man, he is awesome. He is one of the persons that kind of helped me gain a lot of foundational knowledge that kind of I can start building on, that provided me with what I needed to know for HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap, and all this stuff. Like, it just made sense the way he explained it to me. And everyone's different. These are the instructors that kind of helped me based on my learning style. And, other my people have more. I know there's another dude called Maximilian M something on Udemy too, that a lot of people go to. He just wasn't for me. He's a great teacher, great instructor, great reviews, but his teaching style just wasn't for me. And I found it in Andre Neagoie. Again, it's Neagoie. Another teacher that actually I love too is Angela Yu. She's also in Udemy, and her full stack web developer course, it was just so easy to follow, and she explains everything so thoroughly, and she doesn't assume anything. That was the biggest thing with any course and YouTube video. There's some people just assume, hey, by the way, we don't have to go over classes or IDs for HTML elements, when it comes to in studying CSS or HTML. Wait, I was like, sometimes I'll be like, wait, what? Like, what the hell is a class, or what's an ID, or what's a difference? And, how do I select them on CSS? And again, this was very early on, and I have no idea. and the teacher just assumed I knew and continued with the lesson. And then those 10 seconds turned into an hour of finding other videos to explain those 10 seconds of that video. So it just started this hamster wheel of tutorial hell, what people call, that you just kind of, it's hard to get out of, right? Because one video leads to the other, and then to another, and to another. So you need some type of course, some type of structure. And if you're not the type of person to like drop 10K on a boot camp, like in-person boot camp, then Udemy is the way to go. Even there's free courses like Codecademy that really helped me, again, build before I decided to pay. I was like, okay, I have to teach. I have to like kind of show myself that I've earned the right to pay for a course. So I made myself go through Codecademy, free HTML and CSS courses. Past those, okay, you know what? I've kind of exhausted those options. Now I need to go for a paid one. And my first teacher was Andre Niagoi and Angela Yu, that kind of helped fill in the gaps that I kind of missed with Andre. Because as great of a teacher as he is, he sometimes assumes that you know some stuff later on the course and doesn't kind of reiterate the information. And whereas Angela Yu does reiterate the information all the time. Like, even if you've gone over it 50 times, she'll go over it again, just so you, wherever you are in that, video, you can follow, and it's super easy. Now here's another super unorthodox teacher. And I actually encourage every single person to whether they, at least from beginners to transitioning into a developer role, especially a front end role, which is kind of where I'm at right now. I'm a, your average front end web developer, and his name is Dev Ed, right? I think his real name is actually like Simo Edwin or something like that. Simo Edwin. But on YouTube, he goes by Dev Ed. And he actually has a couple courses there on a Developed by Ed website. And man, I don't know if it's, I don't know what makes him such a great teacher. Maybe because he takes the edge off by being funny, or he takes the edge off by making jokes, or kind of really like explaining with apples and bananas the key concepts in programming. But another tip I have for you guys is to stick to a language and get really good at it. It sucks to again, that's something that I've messed up a lot, because I went from HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I went to React, which is basically JavaScript, but it's its own. It's like if HTML and JavaScript had a baby. That's what that is. And I jumped to that not knowing anything about it. Then I jumped to Vue, which is his own thing too. I jumped into Python, and then I jumped into Swift, and then I had no structure. I had nothing, no foundation for anything. I had no idea where I was going, and I guess the first thing would be for me to decide, do I want to game? Do I want to create games, or do I want to create webs or websites, or do I want to create applications on the phone? That'd be my first decision. The roadmap is deciding where is it that you want to go, or what is it that you want to build, and then start looking at the foundational components for each one of those verticals. For me, again, it was web design and web development, and I'm into, thank God, I've gained some structure, and I've navigated past the whole HTML, CSS, JavaScript debacle. I've moved on to React, and now I'm looking into back end, which is with Node and Express and stuff like that. And I still don't know anything about databases. That's what I'm kind of studying right now. I'm getting kind of into MongoDB and whatnot. But again, that's kind of where I'm heading. My goal is to be a full stack web developer. And that's kind of my experience with it. I know it may not be a lot, as I only have 8 months in the field, but hopefully it helps you guys. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate and ask me, because I've probably hit every single hurdle there is to hit on the way to doing this, because I just don't know any better, and I'm kind of just getting experience. And here's actually a good way I found to get experience, or at least develop your own personal roadmap. And it sometimes you can go to Udemy and see a course that interests you. Hey, this sounds like me. Okay, great. Click on the C course outline, and then literally it'll tell you, hey, chapter 1 or phase 1 is this. This is what you have to learn, and this is what we will be learning. This is what we'll learn next, and next, and next. And then you can kind of just form your own roadmap. Hey, at least you have a guideline, kind of a very vague guideline of what to follow if you don't want to pay for these courses. But still, I think they're super worth it. The instructors have obviously done their jobs and made the difference to, or committed time to making a good course. But I encourage you to look at other people's roadmaps, and or courses to kind of create your own. And then that's how you start at least putting pieces together and start figuring things out. And that's kind of how I've managed it up until this point. But again, we'll see. I still have a long road ahead of me, and there's always new things to learn, new frameworks coming out, new languages coming out, whatever. So I just kind of keep, kind of go about it with an open mind, and, just have fun with it. I think that's the best part. It's like if you're into programming, it's because you like solving problems and making things, and just have fun with it. And that's my best advice. But yeah, again, today's podcast is super short, and I don't even know if I should be calling these podcasts. I'm just talking to you guys and making videos about it. But today was, I hope it was pretty short. I'm not sure how long I've been talking, but that's it for this week, guys. And I hope you have a great week. And again, if you have any questions, hit me up. My Instagram is Programming Pablo. My Twitter is Design with Pablo. And my YouTube is Programming Pablo too. So either write me there, or write me on Instagram, or write me on YouTube, or whatever. I would love to see how you guys are kind of venturing out and exploring new paths, because that's something I'm always looking forward to myself. So again, sorry for making it super long, guys. I'm trying to keep them under 10 minutes. I don't see how that's going to happen. But anyways, I will see you guys later. And again, thank you for joining.